This is Paul Kyriazi, and you're listening to Travel Fuels Life.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Travel Fuels Life, the show where we share stories, tips, and inspiration to help you live a travel lifestyle. I'm your host, Drew Hanisch, and this week we're going to continue our conversation with award-winning independent film director Paul Kyriazi. And whereas we spent last episode really focusing on his directorial experiences and all aspects of the James Bond lifestyle except for travel, this week we're going to talk more specifics on how both Paul travels and how James Bond travels. So this is going to be a little guide for you to help you kind of live in that James Bond mode. And we're going to cover the art of tipping like Bond, how to handle casinos, getting from place to place like Bond, and that moment when Paul realized he actually was living the James Bond lifestyle. So from my home here in Greenville, South Carolina, it's time to reach out to Tokyo, Japan, and finish our conversation with director Paul Kyriazi. I wanted to ask Paul a little bit about his givers and takers concept that he talks about in the book, because that was a big life changer for me. I mean, I feel like in my business I'm a giver, but in my personal life I don't think I always was, and I think that messed with relationships at times, and so it was really kind of an eye-opener for me, especially when I heard that he said that 90% of men are takers. And so I started taking a little stock in myself and saying, is that me? I don't know. So this is a big part, again, of the James Bond cool factor, is how you handled this. So first I asked him where he got this concept from, and then was this something that he dealt with in his own personality?
Well, I don't know where I got it from, but I was giving to a fault. You know, I mean, I'd give all my stuff. Somebody asked for something, and when I was a kid, I'd give it to them. So that's just my nature. I'm also an entertainer. I love to entertain, and on my birthday, on the summer, I wouldn't tell my friends, my guy friends, and you know, when I was 10 years old and stuff, and we'd have a hot dog roast at my house, and I'd take them to the movies, and 10 guys, kids, and I'd take them to the Saturday movies and buy their tickets. And I told my parents, don't tell them it's my birthday. So that was always my nature. But what happened on that givers and takers, I just saw two guys on television on some talk show, and they wrote a book called Givers and Takers, and I never got the book. And they were just talking about how they did a survey, a poll asking men questions. And he said like 90% of men are takers, and they're the ones who said, the takers will do one big thing and talk about it all year, and giving, and then they'll take, taking is it can be just like, hey, get me a drink out of the refrigerator instead of getting it yourself. But I got a lot of things that just stuck with me from talk shows, because I was looking for any way to be successful with movies, which means making money. So I would, any success, show or a successful person, biographies I'd read, and some of those things that stuck, all those things that stuck, that were important to me, I put in the book. Like I said, I used no reference material at all when I was typing it up. I never thought about it till later. Another friend told me, he said, Paul, yours is the only success book where you actually tell people what to do. Get a new watch, get a wallet, clean up your room. And he says the other books just, give you that go for it advice. And, get a calendar and get a calculator and, make a base of operations. And he says, yours is the only, and I didn't realize that. He says, yours is the only book. Tell people this is what you do, and go do it. A lot of the fans of the book, when they saw the movie Limitless, and the guy he takes the pill and becomes smart, first thing he does is clean up his room. And then he starts exercising, and he starts learning a language and listening to audios and counts his money. And he said, Paul, it was the James Bond lifestyle, 100%.
Well, it's funny.
So next time you see Limitless, watch that. Yeah, he got new clothes and he got a haircut and all of that.
Well, I have to say that now I watch James Bond movies from a completely different perspective, because I have to admit, the first time I watched Spectre, I actually did not enjoy it. And it was because I was spending so much time analyzing, like we see James Bond's apartment, and it's just... he's done nothing with it. It's just stuff laying around. And I'm going, Paul, this is not Paul Kyriazi approved.
Well, you remember he lost his apartment in the movie before it. They thought he was dead, so they sold his stuff or put it in storage and cleared out his apartment.
There you go.
He was starting over. But you are correct. Other people mentioned that they were disappointed at his apartment because, yeah, you and I move into a new place, we're going to have that place cooking in a week.
Right.
So, yeah.
So some of the other things that you talk about, and I wanted to get a little clarification on this one, and I guess maybe this is just for personal choice, but one of the things that you talk about is, in terms of prosperity programming, is carrying around a money clip with you. And I had never done that before, and it was very awkward when I first started, but I did start getting a little bit more used to it. The question, though, was that you talk about in the book having $100 bill in your money clip, and then having some money in your wallet as well, which is good in case you get accosted by a villain somewhere along the line, that you'll have some money somewhere else. But what I found was that, especially with a tipping sort of thing, it was much easier, rather than me having a roll of 20s with $100 bill in my money clip, was to have just my tip money in the money clip. Do you have a strategy? Is there one way that works better, or?
Yeah, I do have smaller amounts on my money clip, and then my wallet would be all hundreds. But also in my wallet, I do have a couple of 20s, because you get into situations where they can't take 100. Mm-hmm. One time I had a $20 bill at 2 a.m. at a convenience store, and the guy said, I can't break it. I bought stuff, and right. That was really strange. So you have to have some 20s in your wallet, and I carry the hundreds, and then I'll carry the 5s and 20s on my money clip. Always keep $100 a bill on the outside, just for my programming, not for anybody to see. Mm-hmm. And I keep $100 bill in the middle of those smaller denominations, just so I know subconsciously when I run out of those 20s and 10s that there'll be 100 in the middle.
Right.
So that's just one of my. But you have to be careful. They used to call that a Hollywood bankroll, where guys would have a bunch of ones with $100 bill on the outside to show off.
Right.
And the James Bond lifestyle, as you know, is not about showing off. It's about programming yourself, convincing yourself of your prosperity. In fact, we have to change from the competitive mind to the creative mind, where we don't compete with other people, we create. That's what Walt Disney did. He competed by creating. Mm-hmm. If you compete with somebody, if I'm trying to make a movie better than Spielberg, it might look like a Spielberg movie, but it'd just be a copy of. But if I dig deep in my own ideas, I'll have something that's unique to me. So that's very important. We are not here to show off or compete. We are here to create a lifestyle.
So another thing that you do, and probably the first thing that goes through people's mind, is, how do I get all these $100 bills that I'm going to be walking around with? But I think that's something that my mother actually taught me when I was younger. She said, if you can go down to the bank, withdraw a $100 bill, and just put it in your wallet, it's amazing how your whole mindset changes. Because when you walk into a store, you don't go in thinking, I have no money. You go in thinking, I've got a $100 bill, but I could choose to buy this or not choose to buy it. Yeah,
I like that a lot. Just to know you have that power. What helps me too, when I was working here in Japan, and sometimes a little short, 2 days before payday, have a Starbucks card, with $50 or $100 value on a Starbucks card. You might run out of cash, but you can walk into any Starbucks.
Get coffee and some food.
Every Starbucks is yours so I do carry a Starbucks card. Starbucks is big in Japan as well.
Yeah.
But I recommend a Starbucks card and you go in, you're traveling, you go in, you order a cup of coffee and the restrooms are yours and chairs are yours. The heat or the coolness is yours. Mm-hmm. So I recommend having a Starbucks card.
Well, one of the other things you talked about was carrying around a gold sovereign with yourself for money programming. Now, of course, when you originally did that book, you probably could have gotten a gold sovereign for maybe $60, $70, $80. I think they're now like $300 or $400 just because of the price of gold having gone up so much. One of the things that I thought you were trying to do with that was to try to, again, remind yourself to be money conscious. And so what I did was I went out and I would get $2 bills. And because nobody ever sees $2 bills, I would carry those with me, and that's how I would tip. And it was interesting because you would get such a positive reaction whenever you would hand a $2 bill to somebody, because nobody's seen them. They would go, "Oh, look at that. I haven't seen a $2 bill in quite a while." So for me, that sort of became the way at a lower cost than carrying around a piece of gold in my pocket to
that's a great idea. I never thought of that. I got a stack of $2 bills I was just saving as a collection, but that's a great idea. And just to know you have a quote strange denomination in your wallet, an unusual denomination, is powerful. Sure, I like that.
Yeah, as soon as I hand it to somebody, it's like I go, you immediately are getting a reaction from them, which creates a reinforcement for you that money is valuable, and it has a power, and that power can even be just to get a smile on somebody's face when they see something that they haven't seen for a long time.
Yeah, that's one of the rules of the James Bond lifestyle. Everybody I meet is better off for the experience. So it might be a good word, it might be a tip, it might be a recommendation of a book or a song or a music, anything. A lot of people, like the convenience stores, they just treat the clerk like a robot. They don't say anything, and I'll say something. So now that I've gotten over my shyness, finally at age 30, that's when I got over my shyness. That's right. A long time to be super shy. And I remember I lived in a apartment place, and there's a kind of a narrow, it's a good apartment, but there's a hallway, and I'd be walking, and somebody would be walking towards me, even a man, and I'd think, do I look at him? Do I say hello? Do I say, what do I do? And I just say nothing or walk past, and no eye contact. And then I finally, when I was doing the Mark Raymond and his tapes and everything, I thought, okay, I don't care. I'm just tired of this. What do I say? Do I look? What do I do? I said, I'm going to say hello to every person that I run into the hallway. I don't care, man, woman, anybody. And I'd say hi, and they say hi. And I thought, geez, nobody threw a rock at me or anything. But that was like a big step for me, because I vividly remember, thinking, what do I do? Do I look at them? Do I say hi? I'm passing up. There's a foot of space between us, a foot of air. You pass right by them, or 2 feet of air. And what do you do? It's like the thing, in the elevator. What do you do?
Right.
2 people, strangers, go into an elevator. What do you do? Now I just say hi.
Well, and you have that fun story with Queen Elizabeth and Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy going to meet the Queen and putting his hand out, but then pulling his hand back and not knowing exactly what is the decorum here. What am I supposed to be doing? Until he just ended up looking like he just had no idea what he was doing, and she grabbed his hand.
Yeah, I heard Sammy tell that story. She finally grabbed he put it out and back, and then finally she grabbed it out of frustration with 2 hands. Now, in Japan, when I came here, there's a lot of customs of, where do I sit, and do we sit, do we stand? You could be in somebody's church and you don't know when to sit, when to stand. And you can do that Woody Allen running around like, well, what do I do? What do I do? And I found you just delay your action a half a second. So you come in and somebody just says, well, sit over there, and you sit, and then they pick up their chopsticks or what, and then you do it. And so you just delay your action. So don't try to overthink, well, where do I sit? Where do I stand? What do I do? Just, okay, comes down. Oh, everybody's sitting. I'll sit. Okay. Oh, everybody's standing. I'll stand. Oh, they're walking. So just delay your action, and don't try to overthink, what do I do? Just follow everybody else at a delayed speed. Half a second is all you need.
And I mean, when you're traveling across the globe, you're obviously going to be running into circumstances and situations that you're just not familiar with. And to think, Bond always seems overly prepared everywhere he goes, but you can't know everything. And so, it's that, I think that's great advice to say, hey, just slow it down a little bit, kind of observe and see what everybody else is doing, and then kind of make your actions flow from that.
Well, that's helped me a great deal. I mean, that's no small thing, because I've been in all those situations. Even in America, you go to different churches or wedding ceremonies, and you're trying to overthink it, and I just learned slow it down.
So when you travel, do you kind of have that mindset that I want to travel in a very Bond-like kind of a style, or do you just kind of you've just adapted the things that you like?
Oh, it's a good question, because there's the idea of mostly I just flew the regular class, so I just want to get there, But then sometimes it got kind of ridiculous in the economy. And there's just some, wild people and crying babies. So they had this, all these airlines now have Economy Plus, where they put you in the front, 5 rows. So you're more over the wing. It's smoother. It's quieter. A lot of people, and it's only $120 more. So a lot of people don't do that. There's no babies up front. And now you can get on the internet. Here's the big thing for me, Drew. I get on the internet and they show you the plans of the plane, a diagram of the plane and the available seats, and the available seats are blue, and the ones that aren't available are red. And I plan enough ahead of time where I get the very front of the seat, right behind first class or right behind business if they have that. It's the front against the wall. So, and then I get near the window, either the right side or the left side. There's a wall in front of you. So they got no guy. It got ridiculous. Someday they just push the seats right in front of you. They incline the seat right into your face. And, you got no leg room. So they brag for $120, you get 6 inches more leg room. Oh, wow,
right.
Thanks. But if you get in front of the wall, it's like your own personal apartment. So you can sit by the window and you can get out of there anytime you want. Even if the guy's got his legs stretched out, you step over him. There's no seat. But if the other guy's if you're in the seat in front inclined, you can't get out. Or if you're in the aisle, then you got to get up all the time. So get that seat in front of the wall. Economy Plus.
And how far in advance do you usually try to book your travel so that you'd be able to get a special seat like that one up front?
Well, as soon as I know that I am going to go, I usually plan in advance in 2 months, but even 1 month. And here's the thing: if you're freelance and you can slide a day or two, if they don't have it one day before, you can get it a day either way. And if it's just one seat, I usually fly just by myself. So if it's one seat, you can usually get it. But that's a popular seat. The window in front of the wall, I guess they say bulkhead. Yeah. And that's as good as business class. So now to do my movie, when I decided August, summer is very, very popular time, of course, and I made my reservations 2 months early, but everything was sold out the day I wanted to get there, even around the day I wanted to get there. So they had a business class or something. So I got that, and it was a lot of money. And then they said for $30 extra, you can get the first class star. And I thought, what are they talking about? And I had to look. They didn't call it first class; they called it superstar. And I looked it up. Is that what they're talking about? The seats? And I wasn't sure till I got on the plane. But anyway, I clicked the extra $30. What do I got to lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I got on the plane, what was the airlines? Delta, I think. Yeah, Delta, and it was first class. It was on the window, and it was one seat by itself. So they had one seat by themselves, and then they had two seats on the window, both sides of the window, and then two seaters in the middle. And it was a private. It inclined completely flat, and your legs would go. It was your own little booth apartment.
Oh wow!
The television. Oh, it was wonderful.
Nice.
So that was cool, and I could actually sleep. I usually don't sleep on the plane, but I slept a couple of hours. So, and then it was like you're not on an airplane. I mean, you just and the seat is tilted a little bit towards the window, so you're not even looking at the airplane, and it's your own private booth. So that was great. That was on Delta, their first class. It was expensive, but I had no choice because I had to get there for the movie.
Yeah. Well, you definitely felt like Bond in that particular situation, I'm sure.
Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Did you order a shaken, not stirred?
No, I just took the regular. No.
Nice.
I don't drink. I just never liked the taste, so I just never drank.
Yeah, okay.
So
I was going to say there's no martini recipes within your book, but somebody could buy a copy of Casino Royale, and the Vesper is listed in there. So, or just watch the movie because he tells you exactly how to make it.
Yeah, well, there's a guy who has all you can find on the internet. He has a book called The James Bond Mixology, something like that. Every drink ever made or drunk in the movies,
wow,
or the books, and how to make them and what they are. So he's got that covered.
So how do you pack for a trip when you're going? Do you try to wear more upscale kind of clothing, or how does that go? Because for me, that's always kind of the challenge, is figuring out how to wear something versatile enough for whatever situation I'm going to be in.
Yeah, I always dressed up because of the movie stars and the Elvis Presley movies. I mean, he'd be out on the sticks all dressed up. He was playing a Bronco rider in a movie called Stay Away Joe, and I look at his pictures now, or look the movie, and those were avian. Those are first class pants that were his jeans,
right?
So I always dress up. Armani is what I was thinking of. So I got Armani's jeans, and I'm always dressed up, not jacket and tie, and so even my casual clothes are dressed up. I don't wear shorts and t-shirts or a t-shirt that says I'm with stupid or any of that.
Right.
So, yeah, I always dressed up, like the Elvis Presley movies, and then Bond. Never did the tuxedo or the coat and tie, but the jacket with the open shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always dressed up. So one time in Japan, I came wheeling my bag and went into to go get the ticket, check in, and the lady said, "Oh, first class." She said, "This way." And I said, "No, I'm not first class." And I said, "But I look first class." And I joked, and she said, "Oh, yes, you do." And I looked around, and everybody was in shorts and t-shirts and tennis shoes, and I was just in Armani black pants with a shirt and a sports coat. So it doesn't take much these days to look dressed up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think our fashion sense has pretty much fallen out the window over the last few years. Yoga pants. You can go anywhere in yoga pants, I guess, is the new tradition.
Well, just a sports jacket and a dress shirt, and then long pants.
Yeah.
And leather shoes is all it takes to look like James Bond, because everybody else is wearing shorts, t-shirts, white socks, and tennis shoes.
So one of the parts of the book that I listen to probably the most is the part on hotels and on tipping. that was a big mindset change for me in terms of, first of all, getting into a tipping mentality, but then trying to figure out the logistics from the point of arriving at the hotel. And the first obstacle that you're going to run into is going to be the valet. So let's talk about it from valet all the way through to getting into your room. Where are the places where you should be going to that money clip and pulling out tips?
Well, the first thing, Drew, is to make sure you have a lot of $5 bills, or $2 bills, like as you said, because it brings to mind a story. I was traveling with my parents and my sister, so there's 4 of us in the car, and I'd used. You gotta, when you have a $20 bill and you get down, always break your 20s, because you're going to need those $5 and $1 bills for tips. So always break your 20s. But I forgot to do that, and we're heading down to the Universal Hilton Hotel, getting close, and I realized I didn't have $5 bills, and I said, "Everybody in the car, give me your $5 bills." They're all, because here's the reason, Drew, is you get to the Hilton and you tip the valet guy. Now, that's a debatable thing. My dad would always say, you tip him at the end. And I said, well, at the end, it might be another, the casino, you're in there 3 hours. It could be another guy because they rotate. Or if it's another day, And then there's also the idea, if you tip them at the beginning, they'll take better care of your car, or they'll maybe not steal something out of your car. Of course, you make sure your valuables are out, but once in a while there's a missing, CD or something. So you tip the valet to take your car, and you take your car stub, and then there's the guy who meets you with the cart to take your luggage, and he takes the luggage just from the car to the counter. Okay, so then you tip him. So then at the counter, I usually checking in these days, they have the exact room for you, but some in the older days, they'd find a room for you. They'd say, okay, well, you want this room? Yeah, I want the corner king and that type of thing. And they'll click around and they'll type around. And so I'll just say, it's not custom to tip the clerk there, but I'll leave a 5 and say, after all, it is the Hilton. I'll say, thanks for searching for the rooms. So there's another $5 bill there. So that's 3 of them. Okay. Then there's a separate guy who takes your luggage from the lobby up to the room. And since I got 2 rooms, parents and me, separate rooms, so he's taking luggage to 2 rooms. So I tip them for each room. So there's 4 or 5 $5 bills. And I tell people, if you don't happen to not have the money, look at I learned this from Richard Gere in American Gigolo. You look at the guy's name tag and you say, thanks, Bob, I'll take care of you later. And then you find Bob later and, down at the lobby, if you can. A lot of the couple of the James Bond style guys write to me, what if the valet guy's name is not Bob?
Okay, being a little literal.
I say thanks, guys. Keep the jokes coming.
Right.
So there's there's $20 to get to your room now, if you're staying at the Hilton. And I remember one time checking in at a Sheraton, and then I was in one of those airport limousines, and I got out, and so there was all of us. There was 10 people, and so the guy with the cart said, "Welcome to the Sheraton, everybody. I am the guy who takes your bags from here to the lobby, and only to the lobby." He was saying, "Hey, tip me, because I only, don't wait till the room."
Right.
And I think he said, another guy will take your. So he was that was his way of saying, "Tip me" there. And then when I pick up my car, I tip the driver, the valet guy, when he, just hand him the stub and hand him the $5 bill. The cool thing about some hotels, like the Universal Hilton, you can call down to the valet and tell them you want your car, And by the time you go down the elevator, either if you're going out to a side trip or if you're checking out, your car will be there with the doors open and the hood up, the trunk up, ready to go. So I like that part.
Yeah.
So there's your tipping. Yeah, it costs you $20 to get up to the room, or whatever, $3, whatever. They have all these rules of how you can look on the internet, how much per bag. If there's more bags, you tip more, and all of that. So tipping is just a way of way of respect. Now, I think at a casino where you're spinning $3 every 5 seconds, I think the laws of tipping go out the window. I always win at a casino because you're spinning $3 on the machine or whatever. So why not tip the girl? The drinks are free. You're supposed to tip them, and sometimes I'm ahead, $1,000 ahead, and I give them a 20, and the girl says, "Oh, it's a 20. Are you sure, sir?" And I say, "Hey, I'm $1,000 ahead." So spread the wealth, and then there'll be a guy in the restroom, cleaning up the restroom, and I don't make a big deal about it. I pull out a 20 and say, "Hey, thanks for keeping it clean." And I am $1,000 ahead. Why not? So,
do you have a particular way that you slide the money to them, or have you kind of gotten into a style on that, or do you just kind of wave out a $5 bill and thanks, bub?
Yeah, that's very important. You'll see Bond do that very casually when he walks out the door, and Dr. No. And you look the guy in the eye. You don't look at the money. You look the guy in the eye and you say, "Thanks for the service," or "Thanks for taking care of my car," or "Thanks for keeping the place clean." And you can keep the bill below belt level, and about belt level, so the guy can see the motion of your hand, and he'll find the bill, and you just look him in the eye and you say, from the heart, "Thank you for whatever service." It's interesting that the Las Vegas waiters, when they had all those seating by tips, now they have you get a seat number, a reserved seat. But before, when Elvis Presley was there, Frank Sinatra, Barbra Streisand, you get a reservation for the dinner show, and then it's up to the maitre d' and the ushers to seat you. Mm-hmm. And of course, everybody wants to get in front to see Elvis or Frank Sinatra. So all these, made men, gangsters would tip $100, and people were literally waiters were buying houses.
Wow.
With the tips they got from the Sinatra shows, because all the wise guys. But those waiters said they could know the denomination of the bill just by the way the guy put it in his hand.
Huh.
It got so good.
Wow.
And that's very interesting. Of course, they can't feel it with their fingertips, but I imagine they were serious about it. I imagine the confidence with which the guy placed the tip and the voice, they could tell how much money it was. So yeah, you don't make a deal. You don't make a big deal about the cash. The big deal is the thank you for your service.
Right. Well, it amazes me when because I'm not really a big gambler, but when I went to Vegas about a year ago, I was learning how to play baccarat, and so I got my first chance to sit down at a table and start playing, and I realized that not a lot of people actually do seem to tip at those tables, and they are winning money. And I learned this little technique, which was when you put your money down on whatever, in baccarat, it's banker or player. When you put your money down on banker or player, take an extra, say if I was putting down 25, I put an extra 5 in front of that on the dealer side, and then that way the dealer would actually have stakes in the win along with me, because their tip would be riding on the line along with my bet, and they'd have a chance to sort of play along and double their money. And I found that the dealers kind of enjoyed that, and it made me feel more like I was bringing them into the game as well, and just having more of a community kind of a feeling to it.
Yeah, very, very good. And you can do that on craps. You'd say, oh, the hard ways, play all the hard ways. There's 4 hard ways, which is a 3 and a 3, same number. I'd say all the hard ways. I throw a $5 chip, all the hard ways, and 1 for the dealers.
Mm.
I'd say all the hard ways and a hard 6 for the dealers. They say, oh, thank you, sir. Then win or lose. If they take it away, they'd still say, thank you, sir. Or if you win, then they take their share and they say, thank you, sir. Yeah, it makes them part of the game.
Yeah.
Makes it fun, You're communicating. You're there in the casino to have fun. If you're there trying to win money for your rent, you're not going to make it. But if you're there to have fun, you got a good chance of, and then stopping when you got a profit and, getting breakfast or something or dinner and using all the entertainment, not just gambling, you'll probably break even or have a profit. That's a good story, Drew. I didn't know that about how to place for baccarat.
Yeah, so it's I'm sure probably if you're playing blackjack and that sort of thing, you probably can use a similar technique. But yeah, it creates a lot more fun. And I found that when I went to Vegas, I mean, the first time I went with a convention and I put a coin into a poker machine, and for me there wasn't a lot of juice to doing that. But when I went back and actually sat down at a table, because there are baccarat tables or baccarat machines that you can go play, but there's something about that human interaction with the dealer that just makes it comes alive to me. It feels much more like you're in a game.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Think about it. There's no dramatic movies about a guy trying to win at slots.
Right.
It's always dice or baccarat or blackjack or poker. It's got to be a human element in there. But the tipping should be a lot freer when you're winning in a machine. Even if you're not winning, you're still having fun. You're still spinning, or gambling, $5 or $10 every couple of minutes or every couple of seconds on a slot machine. So why not tip the drink girl who has to work in a smoky environment all day long?
Right. So another thought is that I don't always stay in hotels where I'm going to have the bellhop, or I travel light. So sometimes I'm just taking my one little bag, so I don't necessarily need to have them carry that up to my room. But when I go into the room, then I think about the person that's actually cleaning the room. And I think in any hotel that you have an opportunity to kind of drop a tip at that point. Do you have a rule of thumb for that? I mean, is there an amount that you think is appropriate, or when you should do it? Like if you're staying multiple days, how you should handle that?
Yeah, I like to I'm always at the Hiltons. I'm a Hilton member, and my credit cards, it's a Hilton. I get Hilton free rooms on it on my credit card. So I'm always at the Hilton, which my dad liked because he forgot the word hotel. He'd say, "Paul, where's the next Hilton on the trip?"
Nice.
So I'm always at the Hilton. That's a different situation. So I always put $5 on the bed on the pillow every day, and I tell them not to. I was one of the first ones. I'm thinking, this is ridiculous, changing the sheets every day. I'm a clean guy. I take a shower, and and now they have a sign there. If you want your sheets, all that water and all that soap and environmental, why do you got to change the sheets? You don't do that at home. You don't change your sheets every day at home.
Right.
So now they have it where if you want your sheets change, you put the sign on the bed. Otherwise, which is a good thing. But I was doing that for years, telling them don't change the sheets. Unless I'm there for many, many days. But I'll put $5 every day on the pillow, and then sometimes if I need an extra, catch the girl in the hall, and if I need extra towel or soap, or they're happy as heck to give it to me.
Yeah.
Hey, Drew, people don't tip. They don't like to tip. A lot of people don't like to tip. So if you tip a little bit, or even a couple of dollars on the pillow, especially when you leave the last day, it's much appreciated. I think of those ladies having to make those giant beds and clean the place up. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually, it's funny when I'm around a hotel room, I always try to keep it as picked up as I possibly can, because I keep thinking I wouldn't want to clean this place up once, especially when it's somebody else's mess instead of my own. So definitely good to show some respect for them.
There's times when, like you said, you've got one bag, you just carry it up yourself. You don't have to, think you're James Bond, or you don't have to, use all of the services. And then sometimes on some of the hotels, it's more convenient to park the car yourself, because you figure you might be going to it many times. You leave it with a valet, then the valet's got to get the keys and go to it, and then you tip them if you got to get something out of your car. And then sometimes, you have Vegas with those 10 floors parking structures. You definitely want to use the valet, but some places the parking lot's convenient. You don't need the valet. So this doesn't mean you have to, go James Bond lifestyle all the time. But when you're first starting out in the James Bond lifestyle, valet is cool, exciting. It's cool, especially on first dates or any dates with the girls, or if for family or even older people, at least drop them off for older people, or even girls or anybody you're traveling with, drop them off at the front door and park the car yourself. So you don't necessarily have to use valet.
Well, and that brings up the other situation, which is nowadays you used to grab a taxi maybe from the airport. Like when I land in Vegas, that was the old way of doing things. But now you have Lyft and Uber and all of those options as well. So if you were taking a Uber, would you tend to just use the app to leave a tip? Or do you like the idea of actually handing the person the tip as cash?
Well, first of all, I love Uber. It's one of the greatest James Bond lifestyle things that there is, and the fact that they know who you are, you know who they are. You call them on. It's just wonderful thing, and you can see the car coming on your phone.
Right.
It's where it is. It's just super James Bond. I like to tip with cash directly to the guy, so I always just have the car service go on my credit card, and I always give cash.
Nice. Okay, so of all the places, let's talk about some locations, and we'll start with casinos. What would you say is the coolest casino experience that you've had in terms of feeling the James Bond lifestyle?
Well, Las Vegas, and I would say Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, with that super giant shopping mall with the statues and the water fountain, and the statues come alive and all those attractions. So any of those strip casinos, but Caesar's Palace, Treasure Island, and I really for a while loved the Luxor, the pyramid-shaped hotel. But just don't go above 6 floors, but around the 6th floor you really get a feeling. You can look down there, you get above it, you don't want to look down. The Luxor, very entertaining. And it's the area itself. The Luxor is next to the Excalibur in New York. That's just a great corner. So the MGM Hotel is great. That corner, if you look at the map, so there's either that corner where the MGM Hotel is in the New York, or down where Caesar's Palace that has the monorail to Treasure Island. Treasure Island with the exploding volcano is great. You can ask for a volcano view room, and then they give it to you, and that's when you tip the guy $5 for finding the volcano room for you. So your family or date or whoever, your Bond girl, can look out the window and see the volcano exploding. So it's those little things, right, that make your trip. So
absolutely. So
that's the great experience there. So no, it's the Mirage that has the exploding volcano.
Okay.
So Mirage is terrific. So I would tell your listeners, check out the Mirage first for a great experience for your Bond girl or your group.
Awesome. Okay. So I tell you, the first time I went to Vegas, that's all I did was just walk through hotels just to see the personalities of each of them. It's just, it's an amazing place. And I think even for the people who aren't into gaming, that's actually, somebody told me the other day that Las Vegas is probably much less about gaming now than it is about entertainment.
Oh, I agree. It's each hotel, like you said, the atmosphere. Each hotel is a separate Disneyland. With the attractions and the rides and they got rides where you the moving chairs and the screens and 3D and oh my God, and the big shows. Yeah. So the entertainment is fantastic. So you go downtown to the Fremont Street show with the lights on the ceiling. They got a 5-block ceiling, So, it's endless attractions. Then you can take a tour to the Grand Canyon, Monument Valley from there, the Hoover Dam. So there's a lot of those. Don't forget to check out those side bus trips. They keep you away. They keep you away from the gambling too. So those $80 to go to the Grand Canyon. It's 4 hours, and then they hang around there for 3 hours, and then back. And you're still back by night to enjoy the night, but it keeps you away from the tables for those hours.
So of all the places that you travel, there's one story that you tell about you were doing a documentary in Thailand, and you were getting a chance to fly there. And that things weren't working out in a very traditional sort of sense in terms of going on a regular passenger flight to go there, and that you kind of wandered into a James Bond moment. Do you want to tell that story?
Boy, remembering it just sounds unbelievable. I was hired with my friend and actually the Seattle producer. My friend Conrad from the Air Force movie department, hired him as cameraman, and he went on a flight ahead of me to Phuket, Thailand, and you fly to Hong Kong, and then from there you get a flight to Thailand. And but he went ahead of me, and then I took a separate flight, so I had to stay in Hong Kong overnight by myself. And then when I checked in for the flights, they said to Thailand. This was a 3-hour flight. They said, you can take the 6 a.m. or you can take the noon. And I thought, well, get there sooner, So I said, okay, I'll take the 6 a.m. So I get up and I go in, and I didn't see anybody in line. And only I went in. And I get in, and the airplane's empty. And the producer sent me a first-class ticket. And there was 12 hostesses, the full host of flight attendants. One guy and I think 8 girls. That's not 12, but maybe 10. And the girl said, I had a reserved seat, first class. So she said, take any seat you want. Okay. And I looked back there. The plane was completely empty, and I mean zero. This was a British plane, but they had Thai attendants, British Airways. So I took a seat in the back of first class because I like to look over, and then she said, you want a newspaper? And I'm not interested in the newspaper, but I wanted to be polite. I said, okay. So I opened the newspaper, and I didn't realize that night was the Academy Awards. So I opened the newspaper, and there's the Academy Award listings on the front page, which I was interested in. So I do like to read about the Academy Awards. Then they didn't have the flight information on the televisions at that time. They had one flight attendant reading the safety instructions with the seat, and another girl giving the seatbelt demonstrations and pointing to the exit. And I'm sitting in the back of first class, and the girl's supposed to stand in the front. She walks right up to my seat, stands right in front of me with the seatbelt, to demonstrate, and she says, "For your eyes only." And that was the new James Bond movie playing at the time. She says, "For your eyes only," and she does the seatbelt instruction while the other girl's reading it right in front. Then the pilots comes out. We're in the air, and they make me an omelet and stuff. This is an empty plane, Drew. This is a plane with 300 empty seats.
Wow.
And then the British pilot comes out, and he says, "Well, what are you doing on this airplane? This is only a cargo-only plane." cargo flight. And of course, and they're required to have the stewardesses, I guess, by union, even though there's nobody on the plane. I said, well, they gave me a choice. And I took it. He says, you want to come up to the cockpit? So, yeah. And at that time, it was, they stopped having people in the cockpit. And I remember reading Charlton Heston's diary where they brought him up to the cockpit because he was a celebrity. So they put me and so I got to sit, and I was in a fourth seat right behind the pilots. And I was sitting there, and the guy says, you want to be here for the landing? I said, yeah. So I was very,
Wow.
And we landed in that Thailand airport, watched them land and the whole thing, and it was beautiful, floating down and touchdown.
Wow.
And that's, of course, Thailand, Phuket is where they filmed Man with a Golden Gun, the James Bond island. They have the tours there. And that is the point, Drew, that I said, I want more of this. This is really James Bond lifestyle. So I came back. When I came back, and I made a lot of money making that movie documentary. When I came back, I rented videos, just came out, video machines, and I rented the James Bond movies, and I said, I want this James Bond lifestyle. And I thought, yeah, James Bond, metaphor for success. And that's when I started making up the James Bond lifestyle just for me.
Yeah.
Just for me.
Wow.
And then when I was filming Omega Cop, people were asking me, hey, how do you live with no corporation, no company backing you up? How do you live freelance? And I would tell them all these, success books and my success courses in the subconscious mind. And I thought, this is, then I'd forget to tell them something. I would call them up and say, yeah, you also have to do this. And I thought, I got to get this all down on a 90-minute cassette that I can hand it to them. So the first James Bond lifestyle was just me having all those rules and everything that I do as a gift for people. But then at the same time, Amazon started, so I got the cassettes on Amazon, and it blossomed from there. People loved it, and then I expanded. 90 minutes wasn't enough, so I did the book, and that's the beginning of the James Bond lifestyle. From that, they're all beautiful Thai girls in those beautiful uniforms, and the girl walking up to my seat and saying, for your eyes only.
Wow. That's you were channeling some energy right there of some form.
Yeah. Well, I had my eyes open, and I said, this is great. I mean, and what's the coincidence of I never got a newspaper on on flights or bought a newspaper, and there's the Academy Awards on the front page. So all of that. And the girl saying, take any seat you want in first class, because the producer gave me I didn't ask for first class, but the producer gave tickets, and they turned out to be first class.
Well, I was going to say at that time, it was probably all about hijacking, because that was the big worry at that time. And so for you to actually be able to sit up in the cockpit with the pilot, even at that time, because we think about modern times after 9/11, definitely it's not going to happen that way anymore. So, but even back then there was some tension about that. So it was amazing that you got that opportunity.
There was a lot. In fact, Charlton Heston starred in the movie called Hijacked, and that was 3 years earlier. So, yeah, there was a lot of worry about Hijack, but I guess they trusted me.
Well, very good. Well, so you expanded the book out, and it's a great read all the way through. When we get to the end of the book, there are 21 rules that you came up with. Was that the inception of the book when it was just the 90-minute book? Was it all kind of built around these 21 rules?
No, the 21 rules were done after, but with the 90-minute cassette. I believe it was with the 90-minute cassette, certainly with the paper book a few years later. I made those rules up, and I made them down the list, and I thought, well, it should be 21. And I never changed them. And when you're starting out and people make a comment like, well, who needs to check into hotels, and and what is this about chasing women, or you kind of shy about it, and but somebody saw the list and they said, oh my God, that's incredible. I printed it out and pasted it on my refrigerator.
Right.
And people were leaving comments. This is great. And I've never changed the list. it's the list has never changed.
Well, I was going to say your book actually doesn't change that much from version to version either. It's really more kind of injecting something from the new movie that's out, or maybe making a slight revision here or there. But I mean, it's the core of the information in the book has always been very solid from the earliest edition that I have.
Yeah, that's correct. It's never changed. Truth never changed. It's expanded on, and I became a better writer over the years. That's why the Spectre version I totally rewrote, but I did all the sub-chapters the same, explaining the subconscious mind, just better writing and more clear. A lot of stories, as you saw, a lot of stories are from celebrities: Frank Sinatra, Sylvester Stallone, Elvis Presley. So there's not just James Bond, but there's a lot of, as you mentioned, Sammy Davis Jr. So any of those celebrities in those James Bond lifestyle situations, I use as an example. So that's why people like the book. It's not just Bond. There's a lot of Sinatra in there. He was kind of the real James Bond with a tuxedo and the casinos and the, the confidence and the money and all of that, the lifestyle. So those rules never changed. And in the Spectre version, I go through each rule and talk about it and what I've learned from it and where I got the rule and that kind of thing.
Great. Fantastic. Well, so why don't we take the audience then to kind of round this thing out through those 21 rules. You've got the 21 rules there in front of you. So why don't you give us a feel for what those 21 rules are in the James Bond lifestyle?
Well, the first and last are the same. I never run out of cash. And making movies myself, I get close to it. In the old days, I would have so many credit card bills, and I would pay the bills first and never leave any cash to me. And that got for me, and that got into some bad situations. So I have not actually broken that rule, but even this last movie, I got close to it, because when you have an opportunity and you're getting good luck on a movie, you want to make sure it's perfect, and you kind of feed it with cash, and you make sure you got better music, better sound. And so you use a lot of cash. I know Martin Scorsese, many times he's used his own cash throughout the years, and recently he said, I got to stop doing that. He's got a family, and he's got to keep it up. So that's the first and the last. Second rule, I accomplish, learn, give, and enjoy something every day. Saw that on a calendar one time, a day-by-day calendar, and that struck me as I thought about it. If you can, and many people accomplish, they learn, and even a phone call to a friend or something, that's giving, but they forget to enjoy something every day. And that can be something small, or, reading the book you're interested in, watching a video, exercising. And it doesn't have to be, where you run off and leave the family to do something. I mean, just an hour every day where you take care of that enjoyment need. So we got base of operations is always cleaned and organized. That speaks for itself. Challenges, I improvise, adapt, and overcome. That's actually, I didn't realize that. I heard Clint Eastwood say that in a Marine movie, and I didn't realize that was an actual Marine slogan. Number 5, I dress up, even at home alone. Some people have problems with that, but you don't have to be super dress up. Just, but I tell you, when you want to get something going, you say, hey, I got to get something going today. It's good to, wear long pants and leather shoes. 6 is a health thing. I eat vegetables, fruit, drink water, exercise, and sleep. So you got to take care of yourself. 7, carrying enough cash and credit to operate efficiently. And I should know, I've run out of credit and cash many times. One time I was on a first date with a girl at a nice restaurant. And when I walked in, usually at that time they'd have signs for credit cards. I didn't see any, and there was kind of a high-class place. I knew I had enough cash to pay for the dinners and everything, but I thought, if the girl orders a drink or an extra drink, I'm not sure. So when she excused herself to the restroom, I called the waiter over, and I got really worried because I had cash, but I didn't know if I had enough. And called the waiter order. Do you take credit cards? Oh, yes, sir. MasterCard, Visa, we take them all. And then right then I heard in my mind, I was now James Bond. Because now she could order a second drink and I didn't have to sweat it out.
Oh, man. I had an interesting story when I moved from Dallas to Nashville. I had my moving truck, and I was staying at a hotel on the west end of Nashville, and the only place close by to eat was a Waffle House. So I walk into Waffle House, I sit down, I eat my meal, and at the end, I pulled my credit card out, and they said, we're a cash-only business.
Oh.
And that cold chill went down my spine, and I thought, oh no, what am I going to do? And then the light bulb went off in my head, and I said, I was going to do laundry, and I went and got a bunch of coins. Let me see if I have enough coins to be able to pay for my meal. And I had enough for the meal and the tip. And I that was one of those moments when I said, you need to carry money with you wherever you go.
Yeah, how do you like that flash of doubt that you might not have, an embarrassment that might happen, and
yeah,
not good. Okay, I choose my contacts carefully and avoid villains. So you got to be careful choosing your friends and staying away from negative people.
Mm-hmm.
Like number 9, I never give up, but I can change directions. So if you change directions, you're not giving up as long as you go forward, And you have to there's a whole book about you have to give up sometime. Because if you didn't give up, if I didn't give up, I'd still be a paper boy.
Right.
I loved delivering papers in high school, but you got to, and then I worked at the gas station. But I had to give that up, so.
Well, and I always love the analogy of the river. That a lot of people think that the way to your goal is to take a straight line direction, but no river goes directly, straight ahead in a single file line. There's bends and there's curves in it, and there's places where you're going to get maybe a little bit off track, but it's that. Keeping that in mind, that sometimes things will sidetrack you a little bit, but don't give up. Just keep on rolling with it until, like you say, you may determine that this is just not a direction that resonates with your future.
Well, that's great. I was surprised to find out that an airplane is off course 70% of the time.
Oh, really? Oh my!
Yeah, and the computer has to bring it back on course.
Makes you want to jump on an airplane, doesn't it?
A good one. Number 10, I'm not afraid to pay for what I want, but a lot of people had trouble with that. For what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people too, don't pay for what you don't want, because a lot of times we're talked into, you should get this, or you should go on this trip or something, and
Mm-hmm.
if you don't go where you don't want to go, and if you don't, buy what you don't need or you don't want, that sounds simple, but when, when you want something, then don't be afraid to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Echoing on number 11, I get good value for my time and money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important. I remember I think my first adult decision, I was in 9th grade, and I saw this Mad magazine, 4-frame comic with no dialogue, but the boss is yelling at this man employee. The man goes home and yells at the wife. The wife yells at the little boy. In the last frame, the little boy's yelling at the dog. And I said, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to be part of this comic book. I will, the bad stops with me. I'm not going to be a chain of some yelling energy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was in 9th grade, and that was my first adult decision.
Wow.
So the bad stops with me. I will not. So I will circulate a compliment, but I will not say, "Oh, do you know what he said about you? He said you were a jerk."
Right.
The bad stops with me. I'm not going to be somebody's messenger boy for their evil, negative words.
Mm-hmm.
13, I got this from a buddy. He was a salesman. He says, everyone I meet benefits from the experience. And I thought, oh, that's something. I never forgot that. And that means it could just be a good word or a recommendation of a book, or me, I was giving out Bond CDs,
Nice.
I'm always early for meetings.
Okay.
that speaks for itself. When you're early, when you're there, when the person comes to meet, especially if you're meeting at a hotel lobby or a bus stop or a train station, it's just great when the person comes and you're standing there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the respect. Hey, I want to meet, whether it's business or your bond girl or whatever. It's just respect, and it gives you some power. That you're on time and organized.
Well, it definitely helps your reputation.
Yeah. I was surprised. This lady that I'd only known for 3 years met business, and then she said, "Oh, you got to talk." She told one of her friends, "You got to talk to Paul about this business." So the girl called and said, "Hey, Paul's not here." Mm-hmm. And the lady said, "You're in the wrong place. Paul's always there." And indeed,
that's awesome.
And she didn't say, "Well, did you look around or what's the place?" She just says flat out, "You're in the wrong place." Because I was always early and always there. And indeed, she was in the wrong place and found me. Mm. Okay, 15. I edit out negative verbalizations. That's an echo of another one, but bears repeating. You have negative things in your brain, and before they reach your lips, you have control to edit them out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to do you any good. It's a complaint or getting out your frustration. I mean, just, people, why did I say that? Well, there's a split second from your brain to your lips where you have control.
Right.
On the job, I'm always professional. A lot of people don't think about that. I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm, professional. A job is where you make your money. It doesn't necessarily have to fulfill you emotionally. That's other things. And if you get a job that fulfills you emotionally, that's good. But some jobs are there, to make money. So I worked all these side jobs, laying carpet with my good buddies and working at different places. And I was professional. I did them for money.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. 17, I'm constantly learning by reading one book a week. Sean Connery, when he accepted his Lifetime Achievement Award, he says, "The only reason I'm here is because I learned to read at age 3. I'm certain of it."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great quote.
And, Burt Lancaster, he read a book a day. He said he tried to get through a book a day. But 52 books a year, 500 books in 10 years is going to impact your life.
Mm.
Even Shelley Winters recently, I heard her talk about, she was always hanging out with novelists at the studio commissary. And she says, when you read and learn things, it changes your acting, it changes your face, so reading, then you choose, any subject, you choose a subject. And it could be an audiobook too. So
okay.
I tip freely like Bond. And as we talked about, some people have, I'm still talking to people about that, where they see people just don't want to tip.
Yeah.
They don't want to pick up the bill either.
Well, it's sad because I talked to a Uber driver on the way into Philadelphia, and I asked him, I always tip. Whenever I would get on the app, I would always do it through the app. But I said, how often do you not get tips? And he said, I don't get tips a whole lot more than I get tips. And I just thought, it's so sad to hear that, because these guys aren't making a ton of money off of they're putting the wear and tear on their cars. They're not making a ton of money through doing this. Some people just do it for the love of talking to people and, having something to do. And so those tips are where they're going to end up making, that little extra bit of cash that makes it worth it for them to keep doing it. So it's sad to hear that people are not that free with their money to do that.
Yeah. That's there's endless stories. My dad had a lot of cheap stories about friends. He met a friend that he'd see every 3 months. Three of them would get together, and the guy said, I forgot my wallet. I'll get it next time. And father paid. Then my father told the other guy, I think the guy didn't have his wallet the last time. And the guy said, Gus, the guy's never had his wallet for 4 years.
Oh, man. He doesn't get that cold chill like I got at Waffle House. He's got friends that can back him.
Never had it. Yeah, And this was a guy who was in the stock market, and he was always bragging how much money he made on the stock market, yet he always forgot it. So that's, that's something. Quickly, my favorite story, my dad was on a trip with a guy who indeed retired with $1 million because of, he was a mechanic, but the steel mill had this savings stock thing, you know how those goes, and he retired with $1 million, and he said, but I don't need it. And I'm thinking, boy, he lacks imagination.
Right.
I was on a trip with my dad, and the guy pulled out an ice cream, and my dad was at the checkout, the convenience store checkout stand, and he said, hey, Bill, I'll buy your ice cream. He says, oh, okay. And the guy put back the ice cream, the cheap ice cream, and he pulled out the Haagen-Dazs.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Now, that's the ultimate cheap guy.
Here's one. Yeah, well, there's cheap. But here's the thing. How many times is somebody going to tell him, I'll buy your ice cream? When does that happen? Once? Twice?
Right.
This means that guy will never buy himself a Haagen-Dazs that he wants.
Mm.
I felt sorry for him because he'll never buy it. He grabbed the cheap one because he's paying for it, even though he's got $1 million that he doesn't need.
Right.
That's why the James Bond lifestyle. I don't mind paying for what I want.
Mm-hmm.
The guy, the millionaire, will not buy himself a Haagen-Dazs.
That's crazy.
So
wow,
that's some kind of deep psychological thing that I don't know about. Okay. Let's see, where were we at? I tipped freely like Bond. Number 19. I had a friend, in our late 20s. I would always drive, and then another mutual friend, he would always drive, going to the movies or whatever. This guy would rarely drive, but when he did, he'd say, I'll drive, because he felt it was finally his turn. But he said, we have to go to the gas station first. And my buddy Ron said every time, Rick, we got to go to the gas station. He says, geez, we should go to the movies, just get in the car and go. And I always remembered that. And so that's why 19. My car is clean, filled up with gas, and ready to go. I mean, how many times you get in the guy's car and he's got junk in the back seat,
right,
junk in the passenger seat.
I don't think I've ever seen James Bond pull a Burger King bag out of the side seat to let somebody in.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, that Rick is an ex-friend. I was involved in him because of a 3-year movie, but he was the anti-James Bond. So it was like, look at this guy, Rick, and do the opposite, and you're living the James Bond lifestyle.
Nice.
Which that joke of nobody's completely useless. They can always serve as a bad example.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Number 20. I rent what I want and take mental possession of it. That's one of the big things Mark Raymont, my success teacher, talked about, taking mental possession. If you can't afford, having a second house is great, but you can make hotels all over the world and America your second house. Just rent it, and when you're there, it's yours. Mm-hmm. And I've gone to cabins with my parents. They'd rent a cabin, and it was a lot of fun when I was a kid, and we'd carry in boxes of soap and scrubbers and dish soap and towels, and that was all fun, but when you're older and you've got your Bond girl, you go to a hotel and they got towels and they got soap and they got shampoo, and if the window's broken, you don't have to fix it, you just ask for another room.
Right. Yeah.
So same thing with a boat. They say a boat owner, his two happiest days, when he buys it and when he sells it. So,
yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I think of that idea of having to go on a trip, and the first thing you have to do is figure out what work you need to do to be able to enjoy your trip, because you got to clean a place up or clear out from whatever the last person left behind or whatever. I mean, that's just...
And taking mental possession, I mean, just that idea. And I was interested when I started talking, even in Japan, I had some classes, and women love that idea. If you don't have to own, but men want that pride of ownership. So men they argue, no, it's best to have a second. Yeah, get your second house if you can. Get your third house. That's great. But women love it because it's the men, especially in Japan, it's the men that want them to clean up the house and all that. And have that pride of ownership. And that brings us back to the, last rule, to echo, I never run out of cash. Nice. 21.
Awesome. Well, I tell you, Paul, you've been fantastic with your time today and giving us kind of your insights on not only travel, but also talking about your fantastic career and all. I mean, you're inspiring to us in terms of you started out with a dream early on, and you have just kept on moving and moving and moving, and the quality of your new movie and the awards that you're getting for it right now, I think, show that all of this pays off in the end if you do it the right way. So I definitely appreciate you.
Thank you.
I definitely appreciate you being on the show. And what's up next for you? Do you have another project in mind, or kind of relaxing and enjoying this one?
No, I'm more ambitious than ever with the excitement of my new movie. And immediately when I returned from Seattle and getting the movie out, besides marketing on the internet, I wrote up the sequel. I was trying to think of another story, and I do have my other novels that could be screenplays, but I found out this genre, science fiction, mystery, thriller, erotic type of thing, is, with as you pointed out, the weird action that explodes and the knife hits the lens. That's the stuff I do best. It's the stuff I write best, and I'm going to do a sequel. Awesome. As you saw, a lot of people are asking for a sequel. They said, "Oh my God, I've got to have a sequel."
Well, it does feel like it needs one. Yeah.
So, it does end, but it's open, and so I wanted to do a sequel. And it's, again, the challenge of, getting the money back from the first movie and fast enough to make it in Seattle before it starts raining again. So I'm as ambitious and excited about James Bond lifestyle and Hilton hotels. So no, it's daily marketing. I'm energized by our interview today. I'm energized.
So am I. I mean, I've only started on my James Bond travels, and there's so much again, I just go back and reread your book, and it's great on audio because you can just pop it in and listen to it anywhere you go, and it's sectioned off very nicely so that if I want to just focus on the hotels, I can go focus on the hotels, or if I need a little inspiration on keeping my base of operations neat and organized, then I can just go back to that particular section of the book. So I think it's worthwhile for anybody to pick that up and deep dive into it and learn a lot and take the best out of this thing we call the James Bond lifestyle and sort of make it your own, right?
Yeah, I'm still working on that. In fact, I played most of Spectre movie yesterday to be energized. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, I told you the story about the having to fly that first class with that special separate seat, $5,000. And, I'd like to be able to fly like that all the time, but that takes even another bigger step up to spend that kind of money or have to justify it with it depends how many times you fly. I don't fly twice a year anymore, nor would I do that because, that's you can use that money elsewhere,
right?
But I wouldn't mind, getting up to that level. But I'm very ambitious and positively ambitious, growing. We're always trying to do bigger, better, and be more creative, write a better book, or there's all of us. I'm in the perfect, condominium situation in Japan with the view of Mount Fuji out the window.
Oh, wow.
So that's taken care of. But some of us want to, move up to a different apartment. And then once you get to that apartment, there's always another one or a new situation or travel or location. So we're all trying to expand, make more money, have more free time. So I'm as ambitious as ever.
Well, I hope I would love to have done this interview in person and gotten a chance to see Tokyo as well. That's one of those places on my bucket list. So hopefully one of these days I will get out in that direction and hope to hear about your new movie when that time comes and lots of success and a lot of awards like you're gathering now.
Well, thanks. I have a special day tour that I take all my friends on, and even acquaintances, and even some of the actors from Forbidden Power came here. So if you're here, Drew, I got a special secret tour where you'll actually see a full-size Godzilla and go up to the mountain and everything.
Oh,
so
man.
Let me know. Seriously, let me know when you get here. Let me know when you plan to come here.
That is awesome. Japan through your eyes. You have a love affair with Japan, it sounds like. So that would be special.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love California. I love America, driving through America. The daily lifestyle in Japan I really like because the trains come every 5 minutes and they go everywhere. So I like to drive, but in the city, it's just faster to get there by train. And you see a movie, and instead of driving out of a parking structure and getting money to pay the parking and being safe and not hitting anybody, you walk out of the movie theater, jump on the train, and think about the movie.
Nice.
So the daily lifestyle is good here. But now you can do that with Uber.
Right.
I've done that with Uber. You go to a movie, even though I have a rental car, but in the city, I use Uber. Go to a movie, call Uber, jump in the car.
And pass that little tip over the seat.
That's it. Always.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you very much, Paul. I appreciate it, and I hope everybody got a bunch out of this and goes and checks out your book. And I'm going to put all of the information that we talked about in the show notes so everybody can go out and check that out and find out more about you and how to watch your movies and listen to your audiobooks and all the rest. So, again, continued success to you, Paul, and I appreciate you so much for being on the show.
Okay, thanks, Drew. It's been a great experience.
I hope you found some great information in there, some words to live by, and head out to the show notes page of travelfuelslife.com/podcasts. Look for episode 9B, and there you'll find a video that reminds you of those 21 rules of living the James Bond lifestyle. And also, we have a link to his current movie, Forbidden Power, on Amazon and Vimeo, and the Kindle version of How to Live the James Bond Lifestyle, Spectre Edition. So check that out, and you'll also find his Bond Life website as well. And tons of other stuff. That James Bond mixology book is out there, so on and so forth. So check it out at travelfuelslife.com/podcasts, episode 9B. And if you want to keep up with me, make sure you like and follow me on Facebook.com/travelfuelslife or Instagram.com/travelfuelslife. I'm constantly posting pictures out there, all those places that I travel to, and maybe I can inspire you to hit some places that Bond would go to, like Monte Carlo or Las Vegas. Or I actually have a couple of blog posts up on the site about the places that I visited that were in the movie Casino Royale. So check that out. It's all on travelfuelslife.com, and maybe you can start practicing traveling like James Bond. And until next time, have a great week, safe travels, and thanks for listening to Travel Fuels Life.